What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PickSix podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, May the 28th, and it is time for our NFC East reset. We're going to break down the dirtiest division in football last year with Jeff Kerr in just a few seconds. But first, I point out all 7 other divisions. Every single other division is in the feed. We're going to look at it from a gambling perspective in terms of, odds for win total. Look at the win totals, look at the odds to win the Super Bowl, odds to win the division, et cetera, et cetera. Try to find some actionable stuff and figure out where we sort of stand, like an early look at where we stand with these guys. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch all of our shows on youtube.com/PickSix. Make sure to like the video and comment which win total you like the most in the NFC East. Champions. Somebody's going to be a champion of that league. Somebody's definitely going to be a champion of the Champions League with Manchester City taking on Chelsea in the biggest soccer match of the year. The K Golazo podcast has you covered. Luis Miguel and friends welcome soccer experts every single episode to give game-by-game predictions, betting tips, players to watch, post-match analysis, and much, much more. Find K Golazo wherever you're listening to this show and on YouTube as well. The UCL Field is here, and K Golazo has you covered. All right, now the free agency, the draft are over, and the schedule has been released. We got to reset the divisions. We're going through each one and figuring out, again, where to look and what gambling odds to take a peek at. The Cowboys are the favorites to win the year. Oh, by the way, what's up, Jeff Kerr? How you doing? Sorry.
Hey, well,
that was I was prepared to introduce you, and then I got a little – anyway. Yeah, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Can't complain. Now we're talking the NFC East. I'm about to pull a Bobby Knight here and just throw a chair because this is your
wheelhouse. It just so happens that you're on to talk about the fact the Eagles being this is the worst Eagles team we've had in a while, right?
Every time I think the Eagles are going to stink, they're usually good. In 2016, I thought they were going to win 3-4 games. I thought they were going to be terrible. They won 7 games, and that was all. They're going to win the Super Bowl next year, and they actually did. So I don't know. This team, I'm really high on Jalen Hurts. I'm really high on Jonathan Gannon. I want to play rock, paper, scissors with Nick Sirianni. So when I go to training camp this year, I'm just going to pull out the scissors thing and see what he does. So it's going to be very
The Eagles have the longest odds to win the division at 5-1. Obviously, this division is very clustered up, and nobody's really sure how things will play out. You could have gotten some good numbers on Washington earlier in the year, but they're now plus 275. Dallas, the favorite, at plus 105, and the Giants at plus 450. As I mentioned, Philly 5-1. Their win total, though, it doesn't really match up, Jeff, with their odds to win the division because their win total is 7, and the over is plus 135. Their odds to win the NFC 35-1. Their odds to win the Super Bowl 75-1. Of course, they picked up Devontae Smith in that trade up as they leapfrogged Dave Gettleman and the Giants. They also drafted Landon Dickerson. So they put nice pieces around Jalen Hurts, Ryan Kerrigan, and Anthony Harris, some really good defensive ads. If Jalen Hurts is good, this team might not be terrible, and you would love the over 7, but that's a big unknown when it comes to Philly in 2021.
Yeah, and I thought he was good last year, despite what they had. Their offensive line was in shambles at the end of the year. I can't remember who actually started on their offensive line, and I'm an Eagles aficionado. I remember once Jack Driscoll got hurt at right tackle, I'm like, yeah, they're done. I don't care anymore at that point. But Jalen Hurts was still the first quarterback ever to run for 800 yards. Throw for 800 yards and run for 200 yards in his first 3 career starts. So I thought that was pretty impressive. He was a great stat pattern for fantasy. But at the end of the day, his accuracy was really bad. But again, who did he have to throw to? Travis Fulgham, who was good for 4 weeks. Greg Ward. Come on. Zach Ertz was beyond terrible last year, which is shocking because I thought a terrible year for Zach Ertz would be 60 catches, 700 yards because that's just what he is. And the contract situation was a mess last year. Carson Wentz was a disaster. Doug Pearson didn't really seem to care. And, it was just a mess for them last year. So, and I will point this out, Will. The last 5 times they finished last in that division, they made the playoffs the next year. So if you have a bet to make them make the playoffs, I would take it. It just seems like they are the quickest, worst, the first team ever. And then they go back and do this doldrum spell where you think they're good and they're not. I mean, everybody should think they're bad this year, but in reality, they had no depth last year, and everybody got hurt. So they had no one to replace anybody. Their best position of depth was quarterback, and we all saw what happened with Carson Wentz when you actually dared to challenge him for a job. So I don't know. I mean, they are so tough to predict. I feel like, though, if I go with history, I would go over.
Okay, so to make the playoffs, they are plus 280, minus 350 to miss the playoffs. Even with 17 games, the expanded thing. I do think at plus 280 that I'm probably just going to take their over. Well, I mean, you can take both if you like it. If you think the Eagles are going to be good, take both. But if you're getting to over 7 at plus money, at plus 135, you can get 8 wins. They go 8-9, miss the playoffs by 2 games or 1 game or whatever it is, and you still get a plus money return on it. So if you think the Eagles can win 9 games this year, then absolutely take yes to make the playoffs and the over. I don't know if the division odds are really that good at 5-1 because, again, like I would rank them in order: over 7 plus 135, yes, make playoffs plus 280, and then win division well below those other two at 5-1. 5-1 is a nice payout, but there's so many outs for you with that over 7 and the yes playoff, whereas there's only one path to the division winner, and you're not getting 10-1 or 12-1 or anything like that, which seems more in line with where the Eagles are set up in terms of their win total.
Exactly. And I don't know about the NFC East. I mean, really, what's going to win the division? Like, how many wins is it going to be? Is it going to be 8, 9?
9 probably.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's better. I think the Giants are better. I have reasons why they're not, but I think they're better. Dallas should be better just because Dak Prescott's back. I don't care how bad their defense is going to be. It's Dak Prescott makes that team that much better.
Sure.
I feel bad like Julio Jones ruled them out, but where was he going to fit in there? You already have CeeDee Lamb. You already have Amari Cooper. You already have Michael Gallup. I'm assuming this is going to be Gallup's last year there, but really that team, it all depends on 2 things: Zeke and the offensive line. Besides that, what's their odds to win the division?
They're plus 105. Well, let's get to them after the break. Let's get to the Giants first.
All right.
Typical Eagles homer. Talk about the Eagles, and you got to get there and start bashing the Cowboys.
Yeah, I bash the Giants before I'll even bash the Cowboys.
Fair.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Debo, before we move on from the Eagles, any thoughts on bettable items for you on this Philadelphia setup?
Oh, man, there's got to be a player prop for Miles Sanders 1,000 yards somewhere. There has to be.
Does Carson Wentz MVP still count as like an Eagles-related prop?
Yeah, does that count? That's a good one.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean, I'm with Jeff, though, in terms of you think they're going to be bad and the expectations are lowered, and then they kind of outperforming that. So to make the playoffs or a long shot on the division when the division is up in air so much, I don't hate that.
Carson Wentz 40-1 to win MVP.
I don't think I'll take it. It's not.
Jalen Hurts 60-1.
Wow.
Ooh, that's actually intriguing. He's not going to win MVP,
but
Philadelphia gets robbed of MVPs anyway. The Sixers have the MVP of the National Basketball Association, and he's not going to win it.
I don't think either guy wins it, but I'm not as. I mean, look, you guys are pretty optimistic Eagles fans, both of you. I don't think I look at this roster and see a 9 or 10 win team. Not with the way with the new coaching staff. If everybody's healthy, maybe I could talk myself. Oh, what are you guys doing?
I don't even know what Nick Sirianni can coach. I don't even know what he can do. All I know is he plays rock, paper, scissors and loves football. Oh, and he played football. So that's all I know about Nick Sirianni.
If Jalen Reagor takes a leap forward and Devontae Smith is as good as he was in college, sure. And you do have the tight ends still there. So that, I can see in Miles Sanders, you can see this offense being good. It's not crazy to think this offense can be good. I don't think it's going to be a top 10 offense in the NFL.
Top 15, I think that's
top 15 is possible. So you would need a top 15 offense, top 15 defense. Is that doable in Philly?
I kind of think it is. Worries me about their defense is who's going to play cornerback opposite Darius Slay? Are we really going to go with Devontae Maddox here? I don't think so. They got to add something. I know Steven Nelson's still available. Howie Roseman has kind of indicated like they rather trade for a guy, and they have enough draft picks to do that. So I think I'd rather trade for a number 2 cornerback, but I love the Anthony Harris signing. I love how Rodney McLeod's back. If you can, but here's the problem, Will. They just don't have the depth behind them. And one of those guys gets hurt. I don't know if Kayvon Wallace, their 2024 round pick, can do the job. Their linebacking core is actually a lot better than people think. I really like the Eric Wilson signing. He's played in Jonathan Gannon's defense. He's going to be their Mike linebacker. Alex Singleton led the NFL in tackles after week 8 last year, which is ironically when he became a starter. And the Ryan Kerrigan signing, I was all on board for because somehow their really good defensive line got better.
I forgot to mention Ryan Kerrigan. God, I had that. I said Ryan Kerrigan, didn't I? I think I did.
Did you?
I had it written down on the rundown. Yeah, I said Ryan Kerrigan, Anthony Harris. I think the Kerrigan signing is really good.
Yeah,
he's an underrated player. Anthony Harris is cheap too on a 1-year deal. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl safety.
Yeah, exactly. And, he was hurt last year. Everybody in Minnesota's defense was hurt. Like, I feel like him and Eric Wilson got a really bad rep because their defense gave up 6 touchdowns to Alvin Kamara. And everybody goes, whoa, we tried telling you the Vikings defense sucked. I'm like, well, no kidding. We already knew they sucked. That's why they didn't make the playoffs last year. But, your defense can be bad and you still have good players on it. So that's how I'm looking at it. But that front for the Eagles have. The fact that you can put out Ryan Kerrigan, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and Javon Hart, and I'm not even going with pass rush here. Let's add Derek Barnett to a third down pass rush. You got something there. Like Derek Barnett led the team in, I forget the stat I used. It was like percentage
pressures or something like that.
Yeah, percentage per sack or something like that. He led the team, and Kerrigan would have been second. That's insane. And when you're over 1%, you're a pretty good pass rusher. And Brandon Graham was over 1% last year. Like, this team was 5th in the league in pressures. They were 3rd in the league in sacks. They're going to get to the quarterback. I have no doubt. If the Eagles pass rusher is bad this year, I'd be shocked.
All right. Bold prediction from Jeff Kerr there on the Eagles. The Giants, the G-men, have a win total of 7 as well. The over, however, juiced slightly -120. Their NFC odds 35-1, and their Super Bowl odds 75-1. Kadarius Toney and Azeez Ojulari were their top additions in the draft, along with trading down when the Eagles got Devontae Smith. Dave Gettleman traded back, got a first-round pick from Chicago next year, so that has to be factored in as well. And then they were pretty busy in free agency. Kenny Galladay, Kyle Rudolph, Adoree Jackson, Leonard Williams, who was on the tag, but then they ended up signing. And, of course, friend of the program, Mike Glennon, my good buddy. So I like with the I like the Giants this year, and I'm shocked. I don't normally want to like the Giants. I think if 4-1 or longer, I think they're decent value to win the division. So I'm fine with that there. I think they'll win more than 7 games. I don't know that I would take them to win the NFC or the Super Bowl because I don't trust Daniel Jones, and ultimately that's what it's going to come down to. Oh, by the way, they also signed John Ross if you care about such things. There's enough here where you can envision a decent offense if Daniel Jones stops leading the league in fumbles. That may be too much of an ask.
The Giants did the one thing this offseason that I thought they'd address and they didn't. And it's not even Daniel Jones is fumbling. I think Daniel Jones fumbles as much as he does because he doesn't have an offensive line. And they didn't address it at all. They're like, we're just going to go with Andrew Thomas. We did that the year before, even though it didn't work. We're going to bank on these guys developing. Well, that's great and everything, but that's not going to win you the NFC East because you got the skill position players to help Daniel Jones. I really like that. Your defense is going to be a top 10 unit. No doubt about that. I love Patrick Graham. He's going to be an NFL head coach. But the Giants' 2 biggest problems the last 5 years have been quarterback and offensive line. They didn't really fix it, and they're not helping the quarterback. Like, they're all in on Daniel Jones, but they do nothing to help Daniel Jones up front. Like, they got Kenny Galladay. Love the signing. I'm a big Darius Slayton fan. I hope his target share doesn't go down because they have Kenny Galladay. Evan Ingram's still not crazy about. He cost them the first game against the Eagles last year because he can't catch a football that's right in his hand. But I don't know. As long as their offensive line is bad, they're not going to have a chance no matter what Joe Judge preaches.
That's probably true. It could improve. I mean, Andrew Thomas took a big step forward at the end of the year. There are questions about it, but it all comes down to Daniel Jones. If Daniel Jones takes a leap forward, this team is a playoff team. And if Daniel Jones doesn't, then there's a possibility people are looking for jobs. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this team won 10 games, especially considering the teams that are listed ahead of it. Again, I would bet they're over at 7 games. That's where I'm at with them right now.
I'd take the over too.
Yeah, 7 is just doable, even with a tough schedule, just because of what's in the division. And again, because you're hoping that Daniel Jones can take a leap forward with all these weapons around him. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll discuss Washington and Dallas. Washington's win total 8. The defending NFC East champs over -135. They're 25-1 to win the NFC, 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. Added Jamin Davis, my boy, and De'Ami Brown, who Pete Prisco loves, the deep threat in the draft. Curtis Samuel, very much a notable free agent addition for Washington. Anything? Do you dig what Washington? Ryan Fitzpatrick too, as well, which is kind of huge, just because if he plays the way that he's played at times, you kind of see, you can see this offense being pretty good, right?
I actually think this offense is going to be legit, and they don't need to be like a top 10 offense here. I honestly wrote, if the Redskins, Washington's a top 15 offense, they're going to the playoffs. They're going back. I don't know if they'll win the division, but they're good enough. And that's one thing I like about Washington. I really like the addition of Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're throwing to De'Ami Brown. I always forget how.
De'Ami Brown, yeah.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown. He was a stud in North Carolina. Absolute stud. And they got him in the 3rd round. I couldn't believe it. And you had Curtis Samuel, who I thought was the most underrated free agent signing on the book. You have Antonio Gibson. You have Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
Logan
Thomas.
Thomas was awesome at tight end last year.
Yeah.
And I don't like the Morgan Moses cut, but they seem to have a replacement in the kid from Texas. What's the kid's last name? Sam, the 2nd round pick.
Samuel Cosmi.
Cosby, that's it. Yeah. So I guess
and they added Charles Leno too. I mean,
yeah. Again, that's a decent left tackle. I mean, they could move in the right side. It all depends what they want to do there. But I like their offensive line. Fitzpatrick gets rid of the ball quick anyway, so I don't think that's that big of an issue. Their defense is going to be a top 5 unit. I don't even need to go that much farther into it, but I love the Fitzpatrick sign for a year. And to me, they have the division's best head coach, and Ron Rivera, and it's not even close.
I would agree with that as well. The schedule is tough. They open up with the Chargers, Giants at home, then they're at the Bills, at the Falcons, Saints at home, Chiefs at home, at the Packers, at the Broncos. Whew, that's a tough first 8 weeks, but they are a grizzled sort of veteran team with a good defense, and hopefully, you would hope they would have a running game, and then Fitzpatrick can go YOLO at times. Coming out of the week 9 bye, they have Tampa in week 10. But then it lightens up substantially down the stretch, assuming that the rest of the division isn't good. They have at Carolina, Seattle, at Las Vegas, Dallas, Philly, Giants to close out. I mean, that is a 5-game division stretch to close out the season. Unless Dallas or Philly or the Giants are just a 13-win team, this division won't be decided until the final 5 weeks of the season. Like that is 5 of your 6 division games.
They did it on purpose too. They know the NFC East is going to come down to the wire, and these teams are probably not going to be that good. So let's do it. And I think Washington's the first team since like the Bucks in 1995 to have 5 straight teams in the division or 5 straight division games or something like that. And that was when we had the NFC Central. So again, it's really rare to see this in the 2002 realignment era, but look at where we are. And honestly, if Washington somehow is 5-5, 6-5 going into that stretch, they'll win this division. I have no doubt about that. I think they can go 4-2 down the stretch and just clinch it.
I agree with you. That's probably going to be Ron Rivera's goal. Let's get to this 5-game stretch above 500 and then put our foot on, and just bury the rest of the division. Dallas also has 4 of their final 5 games are division games. So you're going to see if the Cowboys are in the race. I hope you like watching the Cowboys on primetime because they will be on there. Dallas's win total 9.5, 14-1 to win the NFC, 28-1 to win the Super Bowl. They went all defense in the draft, including Micah Parsons, Kelvin Joseph, and Chauncey Golston. I don't really think you can look at the Cowboys I will say Dak was their top free agent addition. Because they had a ton of draft picks, and they used them all over the place, but primarily focused on defense. And then the Dak signing was really, I think, the only key free agency signing. Maybe Carlos Watkins from Houston. They didn't do a whole lot of free agency.
No, I felt in past years they were more busier. Like, if you really want to look at their best all-season sign, not Dak, it was Micah Parsons when they drafted him.
Right.
You could have gone at 10. You got an extra pick from the Eagles, and you were able to draft, in my opinion, the draft's best defensive player at 12. And he's going to cover up so many holes on their defense. But, okay, so their defense goes from, 32nd to 28th? Is it really going to be that much better?
No. It will be, at best, a top 25 defense, I would think.
Yeah, and I would be optimistic. If it was 20th, I would give them every opportunity to win the NFC East because Dak's going to throw for a lot of yards. They're going to score a lot of points, but they're also going to give up a lot of points. And I don't think Dan Quinn's going to make that much of a difference there. I mean, I think the system's going to be better. I think they're going to be a better football team, but I don't know. I want to pick them to win the NFC East. I really do. And my head says they will win the NFC East, but Washington's defense is just so good. And their offense, as I said earlier, if they're a top 15 offense, they win that division.
Well, I hope people listen to this podcast back in the middle of March when the Ryan Fitzpatrick signing happened. We told people to take the Washington football team at plus 3.5 to 1 or 4 to 1. And that's no longer there. They're like 2 to 1 or 2.5 to 1, which, is not still not terrible, I guess. I have no interest in taking Dallas at plus 105. That number is not good enough for me. Especially, what's that?
It's a waste of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just even odds. I mean, just take their over-under win total at 9.5, and they can win 10 games and not the division, right? Or, I would rather do that than to take the division at plus 105. My concern with the Cowboys is we saw Dak Prescott playing at as high a possible level as you think he would get from a statistical standpoint, and the Cowboys were still losing games.
That was also the Giants. The Giants.
Like they were behind, they were losing, they were getting creamed by the Browns. They just couldn't, and they were losing the Falcons. It wasn't a very good football team. And that makes me I need to see it from Mike McCarthy in Dallas before I buy in. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were the third best team in this division, even with the healthy Dak. Now he's going to keep him in games, and that offense is going to put up points, and they're going to put up big fantasy numbers. But if their defense isn't vastly improved with 3 or 4 additions in the draft, these guys are starting, these rookies. And you're asking them to start in 2021 in what is a weird offseason. This is a tough spot for them with a new defensive coordinator.
And Mike McCarthy made some boneheaded calls last year. Like
real boneheaded calls.
Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Why are you doing a reverse on like 2nd and 20? I don't understand the logic. Like Aaron Rodgers isn't your quarterback anymore. He's not bailing you out of anything.
Right. Exactly. They're probably the best wide receivers in football. The offensive line is still good. It's a very good offensive line. Probably not. It's not the elite offensive line that it was in previous years. And Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, some nice weapons at tight end. Of course, Zeke and Tony Pollard. I mean, if Dak's healthy, this offense is gonna be really good. Like just by default, it's gonna be a top 5 offense. But there's a chance,
fun to watch too.
Yeah, they'll be fun to watch. But there's a decent chance that they're just like the Falcons last year, where you've got tons of weapons, you got tons of points, you can't stop anybody. It doesn't matter, and you're ultimately trying to come from behind a lot. And if that's the case, then I'm not buying in. So I wouldn't take the under on the Cowboys. I think I'm just a stay away on Dallas. To me, the value is not there for them because we haven't seen it, and we need to see it from the defense. So no bet there for me. Washington, I like the Washington over 8 a lot. I still like Washington to win the division. I think the Giants at 4 to 1 to win the division or better. 4.5 to 1 is pretty good. I can't splash the Giants to win the Super Bowl, but I think they go over 7 wins as well. So I like Washington over 7, Washington over 8, and New York over 7 are probably my favorite bets out of this division. If
Eli Manning would somehow come back for a postseason run, then I would pick the Giants to win the Super Bowl. But
right.
Besides that, no, that's not happening. I'm honestly, I'll stay away from anything Dallas too. We used to, when I played football, it was always poison on special teams for the football. Well, guess what? Poison. Stay away from them. I wouldn't pick them. I would definitely go over on their win total though.
Okay.
I agree with you.
10-7 is not a great season, but they do start. They're at Tampa Bay, at the Chargers. Those are 2 tough opening games. Both will be featured on your eyeballs. Then they have Monday Night Football at home against Philly. They play the Panthers at home, Giants at home. Then they're at New England. So it's possible they're 3-3 or worse going into their Week 7 bye. And if that's the case, you've got some concerns. At Minnesota coming out, Denver, Atlanta at home, at KC. They're at home against Vegas, at New Orleans, and then you have those 2 games against Washington late, one against New York and one against Philly, plus a game against Arizona. They can definitely get to 10 wins, but if they stumble out of the gate against either Philly, Carolina, or New York, or Lord help them, 2 of those teams who all might have pretty good defenses, then Dallas could be we could be a bye week 7 where is it Mike McCarthy's job on the line?
Mike McCarthy's job's on the line, and they're not supposed to beat Tampa.
I don't think they'll beat Tampa in that opening game.
No, I don't think they beat Tampa either. The only reason they're in prime time is because of the Cowboys.
I think they're 3-3, maybe 4-2 would be a massive win going into that week 7 bye. I think 3-3 is more likely. And if that's the case, you have to pick up a bunch of division wins. You have to play Washington again. It's not an easy schedule. I'm not going to take the under, but I would lean under on Dallas because I'm just not buying Mike McCarthy.
The opponent win percentage is so deceiving for them because they have the second or third easiest schedule in the NFL. But then when you actually look at the schedule, it's not that easy at all.
It really isn't. There's some tough games on there. If they're good, they're good. Well, a lot remains to be seen. I think there's better value elsewhere in the division. All right, Jeff Kerr, thanks as always, buddy. Great stuff on this division and the one from earlier in the week. Make sure to check it out in the feed. Appreciate the time, pal.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, Will.